Picture this. You're sitting in a cozy London flat, the rain tapping against the window, when a stranger bursts in, his face pale, his eyes wild with fear. He whispers a single word, for before collapsing, a dart in his neck, dead. Before he hits the floor, you turn, heart pounding, to find a note pinned to the door, marked with a cryptic symbol, the number 4. Who is this man? What does 4 mean? And why does it feel like the walls are closing in? Welcome to Hercule Poirot's triumph over a cunning killer in the Big Four, where the world's greatest detective faces a shadowy global conspiracy that threatens to unravel everything he holds dear. The stakes are sky high, the danger is everywhere, and Poirot's little grey cells are about to face their toughest challenge yet. So, grab a cup of tea, hit that like button, and let's plunge into a mystery that spans continents and defies death itself. The London fog swirls thick outside Hercule Poirot's cozy flat, the gas lamps casting eerie shadows as he sips his hot cocoa, his moustache perfectly twirled despite the late hour of June 1927. His old friend, Captain Arthur Hastings, sits across from him, flipping through a newspaper, grumbling about the weather. Poirot, Hastings says, his voice cheerful but tired, this city's gloom could drive anyone mad. Ever think of retiring to a sunny beach? Poirot chuckles, his eyes twinkling. Mon ami, the little grey cells thrive in mystery, not sunshine, and London, she always has mysteries. But as he speaks, a sharp knock rattles the door, slicing through the calm like a knife. Hastings jumps, and Poirot's smile fades, his instincts tingling. Who visits at this hour? He murmurs, setting down his cup. The fog outside seems to hold its breath, and Poirot senses danger lurking in the mist. Hastings opens the door, and a man stumbles in, his face pale, his clothes soaked from the rain. He's thin, with wild eyes and trembling hands, clutching a crumpled note. Poirot, he gasps, his voice hoarse. The 4, they're coming. Before Poirot can ask more, the man collapses, a tiny dart protruding from his neck. Hastings kneels, checking for a pulse, but shakes his head. He's gone, Poirot dead. Poirot's eyes narrow, his gloved fingers examining the dart without touching it. Poison, Hastings, he says softly, swift and deadly. He finds the note in the man's hand, marked with a bold number 4, circled in red ink. The Big 4, Poirot whispers, his voice like steel. This is no ordinary crime. The room feels colder, the fog outside thicker, as if the mystery itself is pressing in. Poirot calls for Inspector Japp of Scotland Yard, who arrives quickly, his face grim under his bowler hat. Blimey, Poirot, what's this? Japp says, eyeing the body. Some poor chap drops dead in your flat. Poirot hands him the note, his eyes sharp. This man spoke of the 4, Inspector. I have heard whispers of them a secret. Group, powerful, dangerous, working in shadows. Japp frowns, skeptical. Sounds like a ghost story, Poirot. But Poirot's little grey cells are already working, piecing together the puzzle. The dead man, he learns from papers in his pocket, is John Ingles, a diplomat who travelled to China recently. China, Poirot murmurs, where power shifts like sand. He suspects Ingles stumbled onto something big, something worth killing. 4. Poirot and Hastings search the man's belongings, finding a small journal tucked in his coat. Its pages are filled with cryptic notes. Number 1 China, number 2 money, number 3 science, number 4 death. Each entry mentions the Big 4, a group tied to global crimes, revolutions, thefts, murders. Mon ami, Poirot tells Hastings, this is no single killer. The Big Four are a syndicate for masterminds pulling strings across the world. Hastings looks pale, for criminals running the show. That's madness, Poirot. But eyes gleam, madness perhaps, but brilliant, and brilliance is what Hercule Poirot defeats. He pockets the journal, vowing to uncover the truth behind this shadowy group. Jap's men take the body, and Poirot examines the dart, its tip coated with a faint green residue. Curare, perhaps, he says, a poison rare in London. He notes the note's red ink, its bold number for like a taunt. They want us to know they're watching, Poirot tells Hastings. This is a challenge. The flat feels like a stage, the Big Four lurking in the wings. Poirot sends Hastings to the Foreign Office to check Ingles' records, while he visits a chemist friend to analyze the dart's poison. By evening, Hastings returns, his face grim. Ingles was investigating Chinese trade deals, he says. He mentioned a number 1 in his last report, then vanished. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Number 1 is the key, he says, a mastermind in the East. That night, Poirot sits by the fire, the journal open, its cryptic words dancing in his mind. He reads of number 1, a shadowy figure tied to political plots. Number 2, a financier funding chaos. Number 3, a scientist crafting deadly tools. And number 4, a killer who strikes without mercy. They are a machine of crime, Poirot murmurs, but every machine has a weak point. He notices a faint watermark on the notes paper, a Chinese character meaning power. The London fog clings to the streets like a shroud, its damp chill seeping into every corner as Hercule Poirot, his moustache perfectly twirled, sits in his cozy flat, the fire casting flickering shadows on the walls. It's the morning after. The shocking death of John Ingles, the diplomat who collapsed in Poirot's home, poisoned by a dart and clutching a note marked with a bold number, 4. The cryptic journal Ingles carry detailing the Big Four. A sinister syndicate of 4 masterminds has set Poirot's little grey cells ablaze. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, paces nervously, clutching a cup of tea. Poirot, this big for business it's like chasing ghosts, he says, his voice tight. Poirot's eyes gleam, his voice calm but sharp. Mon ami, ghosts leave no darts, no notes. These are men clever, dangerous men, and we will find them. The threatening letter from last night, warning Poirot to stay out, lies. Burned in the fireplace, but its words echo in his mind. With the Chinese watermark on the note and Ingles' journal pointing to number 1 in the East, Poirot knows the trail starts here in London. Today, he'll follow it to a dangerous meeting that could unravel the Big Four's secret sore lead, him straight into their trap. The fog outside feels alive with menace, and Poirot is ready to step into the shadows. Poirot begins by re-examining the clues, spreading Ingles' journal and the number 4 note on his desk. The journal lists the Big Four. Number 1, a mastermind tied to political plots in China. Number 2, a financier funding chaos. Number 3, a scientist crafting deadly tools. And number 4, a killer who strikes without mercy. A machine of crime, Poirot murmurs, his fingers tracing the Chinese character for power on the note's watermark. This is no ordinary gang, Hastings. They play with empires. The dart, confirmed by Poirot's chemist friend as coated with curare, rare South American poison, suggests number 4's hand. Why kill Ingles here, in my flat? Poirot wonders aloud. To send a message, mon ami, he tells Hastings, and to challenge Hercule Poirot. The threat fuels his resolve. and he vows to hunt the Big Four before they strike again. Hastings, ever practical, suggests contacting Inspector Japp at Scotland Yard for more leads. "Good idea, Hastings," Poirot says, adjusting his hat. "But first, we visit the Foreign Office. Ingles' work in China holds the key." They braved the foggy streets, the gas lamps glowing faintly as they reached the grand offices. A clerk, nervous and pale, confirms Ingles was investigating a Chinese trade deal linked to a mysterious figure known only as Chang Yen. "He's a shadow," the clerk whispers, glancing around. "Some say he controls half of Asia." Underworld, Poirot's eyes narrow. "Number one," he murmurs, his mind racing. The clerk hands over Ingles' last report, which mentions a meeting at a dockside warehouse in Limehouse, London's Chinatown, scheduled the night he died. "He never made it," the clerk says. Poirot pockets the report, sensing the trail. Is heating up. Back at the flat, Japp arrives, his bowler hat dripping with fog. "Poirot, this big for nonsense sounds like a spy novel," he grumbles, but his eyes are serious. Poirot shares the journal's details, and Japp's face tightens. "We've had reports for revolutions in Russia, bank heists in Paris, accidents." "That aren't accidents, could be your Big Four." He confirms the curare is rare, smuggled through London's docks. "Limehouse, eh?" Japp says, reading the report. "That's a rough spot. Opium dens, smugglers, worse." Poirot nods, his plan forming. "Tonight, we go to this warehouse," he says. "The Big Four expects us to retreat, but Hercule Poirot does not run." Hastings looks pale. "A trap, Poirot." Poirot smiles grimly. "Perhaps, mon ami, but traps catch both ways." That evening, Poirot and Hastings head to Limehouse. The fog thicker, the streets narrow and lined with shadowy figures. The warehouse looms, its windows dark, its walls stained with soot. Poirot's cane taps softly, his senses alert. "Stay close, Hastings," he whispers, his eyes scanning the alley. Inside, the air is heavy with the smell of oil and salt, crates stacked like a maze. A faint light flickers in the back, and voices murmur in a language Poirot recognizes: Mandarin. He creeps closer, Hastings behind, and spots three men. One, in a silk suit, his face hidden. Another with a scar across his cheek. And a third, wiry and nervous, clutching a package. "Number one," Poirot whispers, but the silk-suited man's calm authority suggests power. The package, wrapped in red cloth, bears the number 4. "A delivery," Poirot murmurs, but of what? Before they can move, a creak echoes behind them. Poirot spins, his cane raised, as a figure darts into the shadows. A woman, her face veiled, her movements swift. "Who's there?" Hastings hisses, but she's gone. Poirot finds a dropped Itemers silk handkerchief with a faint jasmine scent and the number 4 embroidered in red. "Another clue," he says, pocketing it. The men in the warehouse vanish through a hidden door, and Poirot decides not to follow yet. "Too dangerous now," he tells Hastings. "We know where they meet." Back at the flat, Poirot examines the handkerchief, its silk matching the watermark's quality. "A woman in the Big Four?" Hastings asks, stunned. Poirot nods. "Or an agent, mon ami." The net widens. Poirot contacts Japp, sharing the warehouse lead. "Send men to watch it," he urges. Japp agrees, but warns. "Limehouse is a snake." "Pit, Poirot, be careful." Poirot then studies Ingles' journal again, finding a new entry. "Number 4 master of disguise, strikes anywhere." The description chills Hastings. A killer who blends in, he says. Poirot nods, his eyes sharp. Number 4 is their weapon, but the handkerchief suggests a new player. He cross-references the journal with the Foreign Office report, noting Chang Yen's ties to a London-based merchant, Mr. Jonathan Whalley, who owns the warehouse. Affront, Poirot says, "We visit Monsieur Whalley tomorrow." The next morning, Poirot and Hastings arrive. The London fog curls thick and heavy, turning the city's streets into a maze of shadows as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, sits in his cozy flat, the fire casting a warm glow against the chill of June 1927. The shocking murder of John Ingles, struck down by a poisoned dart in Poirot's own home, has ignited his little grey cells, thrusting him into a hunt for the Big Four, a global syndicate of crime masters plotting chaos. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, paces nervously, clutching the ledger they swiped from Jonathan Whalley's desk, its cryptic entries marked with the sinister number 4. "Poirot, this is bigger than us," Hastings says, his voice tight. With worry, these people kill without blinking. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his voice calm but sharp as a blade. "Mon ami, the Big Four are clever, but they cannot hide from Hercule Poirot. Today we chase their shadows in the fog." The clues: the curare-tipped dart, the note with the number 4, Ingles' journal, the threatening letter, the Chinese watermark, and now the silk handkerchief and ledger point to a deadly plot. And Poirot is ready to follow the trail into the heart of danger. The fog outside feels alive with secrets, and the next step could lead to answers or a trap. Poirot begins by spreading the clues across his desk, his fingers tracing the ledgers. Entries about shipments to Limehouse, London's gritty Chinatown. "These shipments are no ordinary cargo," he murmurs, recalling the journal's mention of number 1, a shadowy figure tied to China, and number 4, a killer skilled in disguise. The silk handkerchief, dropped by a veiled woman at the warehouse, carries a faint jasmine scent, and the embroidered number 4, a woman in their ranks. "Perhaps," Poirot says, his eyes narrowing. Hastings looks uneasy. "A woman assassin, that's chilling, Poirot." Poirot nods, his mind racing. The Big Four use every toolman: women, poison, fear. But the little grey cells will outsmart them. He suspects the handkerchief's owner is a key player, possibly linked to number 1, and the ledger's mention of a ship, the Dragon's Breath, docking in Limehouse tonight, is no coincidence. Poirot calls Inspector Japp at Scotland Yard, his voice urgent. "Inspector, we need men at the Limehouse docks," he says, sharing the ledger's details. Japp arrives at the flat, his bowler hat dripping with fog, his face grim. "Blimey, Poirot, this big for business is wild," he says, eyeing the handkerchief, curare, on that dart South American, smuggled through the docks, and now shipments. Sounds like trouble. Poirot shows him the journal, its pages listing: number 1, a Chinese mastermind; number 2, a financier; number 3, a scientist; and number 4, the killer. They orchestrate chaos revolutions, thefts, murders, Poirot says. Japp frowns, but his tone shifts. "We've had odd cases, bank heists, diplomats vanishing, all with that number 4. I'll watch the docks, but you're not going alone." Poirot smiles faintly. "I am never alone, Inspector, with my little grey cells." As dusk falls, Poirot and Hastings venture into Limehouse, the fog so dense it swallows the streetlights. The docks are a labyrinth of crates and creaking ships, the air thick with salt and the faint sweetness of opium. The dragon's breath looms, its dark hulls swaying, its deck lit by dim lanterns. Poirot's cane taps softly, his senses on high. Alert, stay close, Hastings, he whispers, his eyes scanning the shadows. Near the ship, they spot a group of men unloading crates, one marked with a bold red 4. A figure in a silk cloak, the veiled woman, stands nearby, passing a small package to a man with a scarred face, the same one from the warehouse. Number 4, perhaps Poirot murmurs, noting the package's red wrapping. Also marked with a 4, the woman's veil hides her face, but her swift movements betray confidence. A courier, Poirot whispers, but for whom? Before they can act, the woman glances their way, her eyes hidden but piercing, and slips into the fog. Hastings starts to follow, but Poirot grabs his arm. Not yet, mon ami, she expects. Pursuit. As they hide behind a crate, a soft thud echoes a dropped item. Poirot finds a jade pendant, carved with the number 4, its craftsmanship distinctly Chinese. Another clue, he says, pocketing it, the jasmine scent lingering from the handkerchief. The scarred man barks orders in Mandarin, mentioning Li, Chang, Yen, and the formula. A weapon, Poirot murmurs, his mind linking the ledger's shipments to number 3, the scientist. A sudden shout from the crew forces Poirot and Hastings to retreat, their hearts pounding as they slip back into the fog, the pendant heavy in Poirot's pocket. Back at the flat, Poirot examines the pendant, its jade gleaming under the lamplight. This is no ordinary trinket, he tells Hastings. It ties to number 1 in China. He cross-references the ledger with Ingles' journal, finding a name, Dr. Quentin Hall, a chemist linked to number 3 with an address in Bloomsbury. A scientist in London, Poirot says, working for the Big 4. Hastings looks alarmed. What are they? Shipping, poison, bombs? Poirot's eyes narrow. Something deadly, mon ami, to destabilize the world. He decides to visit Hall, but first sends Jap to stake out the warehouse. The dragon's breath is key, Poirot says. Jap agrees, his voice grim. We found crates, their chemicals, marked with that 4. Be careful, Poirot. The next morning, Poirot and Hastings arrive at Hall's quiet Bloomsbury house, its dark windows hiding secrets. Hall, a thin man with nervous eyes, greets them warily. Mr. Poirot, I'm just a chemist, he says, his hands fidgeting. Questions are gentle but piercing. You know of the dragon's breath, Nan, and these shipments. Hall denies everything, but his eyes dart to a locked cabinet. Poirot distracts him with talk of science, while Hastings slips a vial from the cabinet labelled Formula X, volatile. A weapon, Poirot murmurs later, pocketing it, the faint almond scent suggesting cyanide. Hall's fear confirms. He's a pawn, but his work for number 3 is a breakthrough. We're closing in, Hastings, Poirot says, but the Big 4 are watching. Back at the flat, Jap calls with urgent news. His men raided the warehouse, finding crates of vials like the one from Hall's cabinet, marked with the number 4. Explosive chemicals, Jap says, enough to level a city block. Poirot's face hardens. Number 3's work, he says. The Big 4 plan chaos. He examines the jade pendant again, its number 4 matching the note style. The veiled woman is their link, he tells Hastings, recalling a name from Ingles' journal, Madame Olivier, a French chemist tied to number 3. Could she be our courier? Poirot wonders. A new letter arrives, slipped under the door, marked with a 4. You cannot stop us, Poirot. Hastings gasps, but Poirot burns it, his smile steely. They fear the little grey cells, he says, and fear makes mistakes. Poirot plans his next move, sending Jap to watch the dragon's breath while he tracks Hall's connections. The pendant, the handkerchief, the vial, they point to number 1, he says, but number 3 is the key now. The fog outside thickens, but Poirot's resolve is unshaken. The London fog wraps the city in a suffocating grip, its ghostly tendrils slithering through the streets as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, steps out of his cosy flat into the chill of June 1927. The murder of John Ingles felled by a curare-tipped dart in Poirot's own home has thrust him into a deadly hunt for the Big Four, a global syndicate orchestrating chaos. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, clutches the vial of Formula X they swiped from Dr. Quentin Hall's cabinet, its almond scent hinting at a cyanide-based weapon. Poirot, this could blow up half of London, Hastings says, his voice trembling. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a razor. Mon ami, the Big Four play with fire, but Hercule Poirot will douse their flames. Tonight, we face a showdown that could crack their web. The clues, the dart, the note with the number 4, Ingles' journal, the threatening letter, the Chinese watermark, the silk handkerchief, the ledger, the jade pendant, and now the volatile Formula X point to a plot that threatens nations. The fog pulses with danger, and Poirot is ready to confront the shadows. Poirot begins by examining the vial of Formula X, its label warning of volatility, confirming his suspicion of number 3's scientific hand. This is no mere poison, he tells Hastings, his fingers tracing the number 4 on the jade pendant. It's a weapon for chaos, crafted for the Big Four's plans. The ledger's entries about the dragon's breath and its chemical crates, combined with the journal's mention of number 1, a Chinese mastermind, and Madame Olivier, a French chemist tied to number 3, suggest a global operation. The veiled woman at the docks, Poirot murmurs. Recalling her jasmine-scented handkerchief, she links number 1 and number 3. Hastings looks pale. A woman like that, working with killers. It's terrifying, Poirot. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Terrifying, yes, but every player leaves a trace, and we shall find it. Poirot calls Inspector Jap, who's still shaken from the warehouse raid. Those crates were packed with your Formula X, Poirot, Jap says, his voice grim over the phone. Enough to level a city. We're watching the dragon's breath, but Limehouse is a viper's nest. Poirot shares the pendant's clue, its Chinese craftsmanship pointing to number 1. Possibly Li Chang Yen. Madame Olivier may be our veiled woman, Poirot says. Find her, Inspector, and we find the heart of this plot. Jap agrees. To check chemist records, but warns, if she's with the Big Four, she's dangerous. Poirot smiles faintly. Danger, mon ami, is where Hercule Poirot thrives. Poirot and Hastings head to Bloomsbury to confront Dr. Hall again. Hoping to uncover more about Formula X, the chemist's house is eerily quiet, its windows dark. Hall, his eyes darting nervously, lets them in. I told you, I'm just a scientist. He stammers, but Poirot's questions are relentless. Monsieur Hall, you work for number 3, Nan. And this Formula X, what is its purpose? Hall's hands shake, his voice cracking. I don't know any number 3. I made chemicals for a client, that's all. Poirot notices a locked drawer, its key dangling from Hall's pocket, while Hastings distracts him with questions about chemistry. Poirot slips a notebook from the drawer, its pages detail Formula X's explosive properties and a delivery to M.O.'s. In Paris, Madame Olivier, Poirot whispers, pocketing. It Hall's panic confirms he's a pawn, but the notebook is a goldmine. Back at the flat, Poirot studies the notebook, its entries mentioning a meeting in Paris with M.O. To deliver Formula X Paris, he tells Hastings, where number 3 operates. We must go there. Hastings looks alarmed. Paris, with the big 4 after us. Poirot's eyes gleam. They think we fear them, but fear is their weakness. He cross-references the notebook with Ingles' journal, finding a reference to Madame Olivier as a chemist exiled from France for unethical experiments. She crafts weapons for number 3, Poirot says, and the veiled woman's handkerchief ties her to the docks. The jasmine scent lingers in his mind, a clue to her identity. He suspects she's number 3's agent, delivering Formula X for a larger plot. That evening, Poirot and Hastings board a train to Paris, the fog giving way to starlit fields. Poirot's cane taps rhythmically, his mind on the veiled woman. She moves like a shadow, he tells Hastings, but shadows leave traces. In Paris, they head to a run-down chemist's shop in Montmartre, listed in Hall's notebook as Madame Olivier's base. The shop is dark, its shelves lined with dusty bottles, but a faint light flickers in the back. Poirot knocks, and a woman answers all, veiled, her voice low and accented. Monsieur Poirot, you are bold to come here, she says, her eyes glinting through the veil. Hastings tenses, but Poirot remains calm. Madame Olivier, I presume. Your Formula X is dangerous, Nan. She laughs softly, her hand slipping to her pocket. You know too much, detective. Before Poirot can respond, a man lunges from the shadows, scar-faced, the same from the docks. Number 4, Hastings gasps as the man swings a knife. Poirot ducks, his cane knocking the blade away, and Hastings tackles the man, pinning him. The veiled woman flees, dropping a vial and other Formula X sample. Poirot grabs it, his heart racing. She is Madame Olivier, he says, as they tie the scarred man. The man snarls, refusing to talk, but his pocket holds a note. Deliver to number 1, Shanghai. Poirot's eyes narrow. Shanghai, he murmurs, the heart of the big 4. The shop's back room reveals a lab, its tables littered with chemicals and plans for an explosive device. Number 3's work, Poirot says. Pocketing a blueprint, they hand the scarred man to the Paris police, who confirm his identity as a hired thug, but Madame Olivier has vanished. Back at their hotel, Poirot studies the blueprint, its design showing a bomb powered by Formula X. This could destroy a city square, he tells Hastings, his voice grim. The big 4 plan a spectacle. A new letter arrives, slipped under the door, marked with a 4. You escaped, Poirot, but not for long. Hastings pales, but Poirot burns it, his smile steely. They are desperate, mon ami, and desperation breeds errors. He contacts Jap, urging him to alert French authorities about Madame Olivier. She's number 3's right hand. Poirot says, but number 1 pulls the strings. Poirot plans their next move, the blueprint and vial heavy in his pocket. Shanghai is far, but Paris holds answers, he tells Hastings. Madame Olivier will lead us to number 3. The jasmine scent of the handkerchief lingers, tying her to the docks and now this lab. The big 4's plot is unfolding, and Poirot knows the showdown has only begun. The Paris night hums with danger, but his little grey cells are sharper than ever. We're neck-deep in this global conspiracy, with Poirot's showdown in Paris exposing Madame Olivier and a deadly bomb plot. Who is number one in Shanghai? What's the Big Four's next move? Stick with us for Chapter 5, where Poirot chases the trail across borders into the Paris night hums with danger, its cobblestone streets slick with rain as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, sits in a dimly lit hotel room, the blueprint of a deadly bomb spread before him. It's June 1927, and the hunt for the Big Four, a global syndicate of crime masters, has taken a perilous turn after Poirot's heart-pounding showdown with Madame Olivier and a scarred thug in her Montmartre lab. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, grips the vial of Formula X. Its almond sent a chilling reminder of the explosive plot they've uncovered. "Poirot, we're in deep now," Hastings says, his voice shaky. "That bomb could destroy half of Paris." Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a knife. "Mon ami, the Big Four think they can outwit us, but Hercule Poirot sets his own traps. Tonight, we chase their trail across borders. The clue's a curare-tipped dart, the note with the number 4, John Ingles' journal, the threatening letter, the Chinese watermark, the silk handkerchief, the ledger, the jade pendant, the Formula X vial, and now the bomb blueprint point to a conspiracy that threatens the world. The rain outside beats like a warning, and Poirot is ready to spring a trap on the Big Four. Poirot begins by studying the blueprint, its precise lines detailing a bomb powered by Formula X, capable of leveling a city square. "Number 3's work," he murmurs, recalling Madame Olivier, the veiled chemist who fled her lab. "She crafts weapons, but number 1 in Shanghai pulls the strings." Hastings looks pale, clutching the jade pendant. "Shanghai. That's halfway across the world, Poirot." Poirot nods, his mind racing. "The Big Four operate globally, mon ami. The note from the thug said deliver to number 1, Shanghai. We must follow the journal's entries. Number 1, a Chinese mastermind. Number 2, a financier. Number 3, a scientist. Number 4, a killer in disguise. Suggest a layered plot, and Madame Olivier's jasmine-scented handkerchief ties her to the docks, and now this lab. She is their courier, Poirot says, but we will catch her." Poirot contacts Inspector Japp, who's coordinating with Paris police. "Your thug's not talking," Japp says over the phone, his voice grim. "But that lab had enough chemicals to start a war. Any sign of Madame Olivier?" Poirot shares the blueprint's details, urging Japp to alert French authorities. "She's number 3's agent," he says, "and her trail leads to Shanghai." Japp groans Shanghai. "You're mad, Poirot." But he agrees to check shipping records for the Dragon's Breath, the ship linked to the Big Four's crates. Poirot suspects Madame Olivier is fleeing to meet number 1, and the bomb plot is part of a larger scheme, perhaps a terrorist attack. To destabilize Europe, we must act fast, Poirot tells Hastings, before Formula X strikes. Poirot and Hastings head to Le Havre, the French port where the Dragon's Breath is docked, hoping to intercept Madame Olivier. The rain-soaked docks are a maze of crates and cranes, the air heavy with salt and oil. Poirot's cane taps softly, his senses alert. She moves like a shadow, he whispers, scanning the ship's deck. They spot a woman in a silk cloak, her veil fluttering, boarding the ship with a small case. Madame Olivier, Poirot murmurs, recognizing her swift movements. Before they can approach, a man steps from the chateau stall, with cold eyes and a faint scar, not the thug from Paris, but another of number 4's disguises. "Stay back, Hastings," Poirot hisses, as the man pulls a gun. Poirot ducks behind a crate, his heart pounding, and signals Hastings to circle around. Hastings creeps through the fog, his nerves frayed, and overhears the man and Madame Olivier arguing in low tones. Number 1 demands the formula now, the man says, his voice sharp. No delays. Madame Olivier snaps. The bomb is ready, Paris will burn. Hastings gasps, alerting them, and the man fires, the bullet grazing a crate. Poirot leaps forward, his cane knocking the gun away, and Hastings tackles the man, pinning him. Madame Olivier flees onto the ship, her case clutched tight. Poirot grabs a dropped item, a small key, engraved with the number 4. To her case, he murmurs, pocketing it. The man, another hired thug, snarls but reveals nothing, and Poirot hands him to the port police, who confirm the Dragon's Breath is bound for Shanghai. Back at their hotel, Poirot examines the key, its intricate design matching the jade pendant's craftsmanship. This unlocks her secrets, he tells Hastings, but we must board that ship. Hastings looks horrified. To Shanghai. It's suicide, Poirot. Poirot's smile is steely. The Big Four think we fear them, but fear is their weakness. He studies the blueprint again, noting its mention of a demonstration in Paris before delivery to Shanghai. They plan a test, Poirot says, to show their power. He contacts Jap, who reports the ship's cargo includes more Formula X vials, hidden in crates marked with the number 4. We're raiding it, Jap says, but you're on your own in Shanghai. Poirot and Hastings book passage on the Dragon's Breath, posing as merchants to blend in. The ship's deck is a hive of activity, its crew rough and suspicious. Poirot's eyes scan for Madame Olivier, spotting her veiled figure near the captain's cabin. She carries the case. He whispers, noting its tight lock. Late at night, they sneak toward her cabin, the ship's creaks masking their steps. Poirot uses the key, opening the case to find more Formula X vials and a letter addressed to Li Chang Yen, Shanghai. The letter details a plan to bomb a Paris summit, destabilizing Europe's leaders. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmurs, their ambition is vast. A creak behind them makes Hastings spin, but it's only a crewman passing. They slip out, the letter and a vial in Poirot's pocket, back in their cabin. Poirot studies the letter, its red ink matching the threatening notes. Number 1 orchestrates this, he says, but Madame Olivier is the key. Hastings looks pale. A bomb in Paris. We can't let it happen. Poirot nods, his mind racing. He suspects number 4, the master of disguise, is on the ship, watching them. A new clue emerges, a scrap of paper in the case, listing a Paris address, Rue de la Paix, midnight, June 10th. The summit is tomorrow, Poirot says, his voice urgent. He wires Jap to secure the address, warning of the bomb. We stop it in Paris, he tells Hastings, then follow Madame Olivier to Shanghai. As the ship sails, a new letter slips under their door, marked with a 4. You cannot outrun us, Poirot. Hastings trembles, but Poirot burns it, his eyes blazing. They are close, mon ami, and closeness breeds mistakes. He plans to confront Madame Olivier before Paris, setting a trap to expose her allies. The ship's dark waves churn, matching the danger ahead. We're racing across borders in this deadly game, with Poirot setting a trap for Madame Olivier and uncovering a bomb plot. Will he stop the Paris attack? Who's watching on the ship? Stick with us for Chapter 6, where Poirot springs his trap in a showdown that could unmask number 4. If you're hooked on this global thriller, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's in store for Poirot in Paris? Let's keep chasing with Poirot. The dark waves of the English Channel churn beneath the dragon's breath as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, stands in his cramped ship cabin, the stolen letter to Li Chang Yen spread before him. It's June 1927, and the hunt for the Big Four, a global syndicate plotting chaos, has reached a fever pitch. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, clutches the vial of Formula X and the bomb blueprint, his face pale with dread. Poirot, a bomb in Paris tomorrow. We're cutting it close, he says, his voice trembling. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone steady but sharp as a blade. Mon ami, the Big Four think they hold all the cards, but Hercule Poirot plays a cleverer game. Tonight, we spring a trap in Paris to stop their bomb and unmask their agents. The clues: the curare-tipped dart, the note with the number 4, John Ingles' journal, the threatening letter, the Chinese watermark, the silk handkerchief, the ledger, the jade pendant, the Formula X vial, the bomb blueprint, the key, the letter to number 1, and the scrap of paper with Rue de la Paix, midnight. June 10, inches point to a deadly plot to destabilize Europe. The ship's creaks echo like warnings, and Poirot is ready to outwit the Big Four. Poirot begins by re-examining the letter. Its red ink matching the threatening notes, detailing a bomb attack at a Paris summit to disrupt Europe's leaders. Number 1 orchestrates this from Shanghai, he murmurs. But Madame Olivier is the key here. The scrap of papers address Rue de la Paix. Midnight suggests the bomb's delivery point. Hastings looks frantic. We're on a ship, Poirot. How do we stop it? Poirot's smile is grim. We dock in Le Havre soon, mon ami, and Paris is near. We will beat them to the summit. He suspects Madame Olivier, the veiled chemist, is on board. Her locked case, holding more Formula X, the jasmine-scented handkerchief and jade pendant tie her to number 1. And Poirot plans to confront her before she slips away. Poirot wires Inspector Japp, who's coordinating with French police. Blimey, Poirot, a bomb at the summit. Japp's voice crackles over the line. We're securing Rue de la Paix, but that ship's a problem. Any sign of your veiled woman? Poirot shares the letter's details, urging Japp to watch the Paris address. Madame Olivier is number 3's agent, he says, and she's heading there. Japp confirms the Dragon's Breath is under surveillance, its crates of Formula 10 seized, but Madame Olivier remains elusive. She's a ghost, Poirot, Japp says. Find her, or Paris pays the price. Poirot nods, his mind racing. The little grey cells will trap her, Inspector. As the ship nears Le Havre, Poirot and Hastings search for Madame Olivier, creeping through the ship's dim corridors. The air is thick with salt and tension, the crew's eyes suspicious. Poirot spots her veiled figure near the cargo hold, her case clutched tight. Madame, he calls softly, stepping forward. She freezes, her voice low and accented. You're persistent, Monsieur Poirot. Before he can respond, a shadow moves a man in a dark coat, his face half hidden, lunges with a knife. Number 4. Hastings gasps, shoving Poirot aside as the blade grazes a wall. Poirot's cane swings, tripping the man, and Hastings tackles him, but Madame Olivier slips into the hold. Poirot finds a dropped item, a small notebook, its pages listing Formula X deliveries and a name, Claude Darrell, Paris, another. Agent Poirot murmurs, pocketing it. They tie the man, another thug, and hand him to the ship's crew, who alert the port police. Poirot examines the notebook, its entries linking Darryl to number 4, the master of disguise. He's in Paris, mon ami, Poirot says, and he carries the bomb. The ship docks, and they race to a train for Paris, the notebook and letter heavy in Poirot's pocket. On the train, Poirot studies the blueprint. Its design showing a compact bomb triggered by Formula X. A single vial could kill hundreds. He tells Hastings, his voice grim. Hastings looks sick. We're walking into a trap, aren't we? Poirot's eyes gleam. A trap, yes, but Hercule Poirot sets his own. In Paris, they head to Rue de la Paix, a grand street buzzing with summit preparations. The air is electric, diplomats and police swarming. Poirot meets a French inspector, Monsieur Giraud, who's skeptical but cooperative. Your bomb threats got everyone jumpy, Poirot, Giraud says. We've searched the area, no explosives. Poirot shows the notebook's mention of Claude Darryl. He's number 4, a master of disguise, Poirot says. He's here, with the bomb. Giraud posts men at every corner, but Poirot knows number 4 blends in like a shadow. He and Hastings stake out a cafe near the summit venue, watching for Madame, Olivier or Darryl. The clock nears midnight, the tension thick as fog. At 11:55, Poirot spots a man in a waiter's uniform, his movements too precise, his eyes too sharp. Darryl, Poirot whispers, noting a faint scar under makeup number 4's disguise. The man carries a tray, a small case hidden beneath it. Poirot signals Hastings, and they follow him into an alley, where he meets a woman, Madame Olivier, her veil gone, her face cold and striking. The device is set, she whispers, handing him the case. Poirot steps forward, his voice ringing. Madame Olivier, Monsieur Darryl, your game ends here. Darryl spins, pulling a gun, but Hastings knocks it away, and Giraud's men swarm, cuffing them. The case holds a bomb, its Formula X core ticking. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmurs, as a bomb expert disarms it with seconds to spare. Back at the police station, Madame Olivier remains silent, but Darryl snarls, number 1 will crush you, Poirot. Poirot finds a new clue in the case, a map of Shanghai, marked with a meeting point. The trail leads east, he tells Hastings, his voice firm. Giraud confirms the bomb's powering up to kill the summit's leaders. You saved Paris. Poirot, he says, but Poirot's mind is on Shanghai. A new letter arrives, delivered to the station, marked with a 4. You won this round, but number 1 waits. Hastings trembles, but Poirot burns it, his smile steely. They underestimate the little grey cells, he says, and that is their mistake. Poirot plans to follow the map to Shanghai, where number 1 hides. Madame Olivier and Darryl are pawns, he tells Hastings, but number 1 is the king. The jasmine scent of the handkerchief, the jade pendant, the letter, they all point east. The Big Four's plot is far from over, and Poirot knows the next move could be his last. We've raced through Paris to stop a bomb with Poirot's trap, snaring Madame Olivier and number 4. What awaits in Shanghai? Who is number 1? Stick with us for Chapter 7, where Poirot sails into the heart of danger to confront the Big Four's leader. If you're hooked on this global thriller, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's number 1 planning? Let's keep chasing with Poirot. The humid air of Shanghai clings like a second skin as Hercule Poirot, his moustache still impeccably twirled despite the long voyage. Steps off the Dragon's Breath onto the bustling docks in July 1927, the narrow escape in Paris, where thwarted a bomb plot orchestrated by the Big Four has only sharpened his resolve to hunt their leader, number one. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, grips the Shanghai map they found in Madame Olivier's case, his face pale under the glow of lanterns. Poirot, we're in the lion's den now, he says, his voice tight with fear. Number one's here somewhere. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. Mon ami, the Big Four think Shanghai hides them, but Hercule Poirot's little grey cells see through shadows. Today we strike at their heart. The clue's the curare-tipped dart, the note with the number 4, John Ingles' journal, the threatening letter, the Chinese watermark, the silk handkerchief, the ledger, the jade pendant, the Formula X vial, the bomb blueprint, the key, the letter to Chang Yen, the Paris address, the notebook naming Claude Darrell, and now the Shanghai map point to a global conspiracy led by the elusive number one. The docks hum with danger, and Poirot is ready to face the kingpin. Poirot begins by studying the map, its red ink marking a meeting point in Shanghai's old city, a maze of narrow alleys and hidden courtyards. Chang Yen, he murmurs, recalling the name from the letter. Number one hides here, but we will find him. Hastings looks nervous, clutching the jade pendant. This place is crawling with trouble, Poirot. How do we even start? Poirot's smile is grim. With order, mon ami. The Big Four are a machine, and every machine has a weak link. The journal describes number one as a mastermind controlling political chaos, with Madame Olivier and Claude Darrell now in pawns. The threatening letter in Paris, warning number one waits, suggests he knows Poirot is coming. He challenges us, Poirot says, but challenges reveal cracks. Poirot contacts a local ally, Inspector Chen, a sharp-eyed officer with a deep knowledge of Shanghai's underworld. They meet in a tea house, its air thick with jasmine and whispers. Monsieur Poirot, this Chang Yen is a ghost, Chen says, his voice low. He's tied to opium rings, political plots, nobody sees him. Poirot shows the map, its marked courtyard near a temple. This is where he meets his agents, he says. Chen frowns. That's a dangerous spot, triad territory, Poirot. Shares the clues, the ledger shipments, the Formula X file, the bomb blueprint. The Big Four plan more than bombs, he says. They want power. Chen agrees to send men to watch the courtyard, but warns, you're a target, Poirot. Be careful. Poirot and Hastings venture into the old city, the alleys buzzing with vendors and shadowed figures. The temple looms, its red lanterns swaying, the air heavy with incense. Poirot's cane taps softly, his senses alert. Number one expects us to fear him, he whispers, but fear blinds. They spot a man in a silk robe, his face half hidden, slipping into the courtyard. An agent, Poirot murmurs, noting a red pin on his robe, marked with a faint 4. Hastings tenses. Number 4 again. Poirot shakes his head. No, mon. Ami, number 4 is in Paris. This is another pawn. They follow, keeping to the shadows, as the man enters a hidden room behind the temple. Its door marked with a 4 dot inside. The air is thick with smoke, and voices murmur in Mandarin. Poirot peers through a crack, spotting the man passing a scroll to another figure, commanding, his face obscured by a lacquered mask. Chang Yen, Poirot whispers, his heart racing. The scroll, sealed with a red 4, contains plans for a new weaponer, gas derived from Formula X, meant to poison a city's water supply. Monsieur Poirot murmurs. Their ambition grows. Hastings grips his arm. We can't fight him here. Before they can retreat, a guard spots them, shouting, and Poirot pulls Hastings into an alley as footsteps pound closer. They escape, hearts pounding, but Poirot finds a dropped item, a red seal, matching the scroll's wax, engraved with the number 4 dot back at the tea house. Poirot examines the seal, its intricate design tying it to the jade pendant. This is number 1's mark, he tells Hastings. He's close. He cross-references the journal, finding a mention of a Shanghai merchant, Mr. Wu, linked to Li Chang Yen, a front. Perhaps, Poirot says, like Wally in London. They visit Wu's lavish shop, its shelves lined with jade and silk. Wu, a smooth-talking man with cold eyes, greets them warily. Monsieur Poirot, I trade goods, not secrets, he says, but his hands fidget. Poirot's questions are gentle, but piercing. You know of Li Chang Yen, and these shipments. Wu denies everything, but his eyes dart to a locked safe. Poirot distracts him with talk of trade, while Hastings slips a ledger from a desk, its entries list. Gas canisters, marked with a 4, bound for Europe. Poirot and Hastings return to the tea house, the ledger confirming Wu's role in smuggling Formula X gas. Number 1 plans to poison a city, Poirot says, his voice grim. London, perhaps, or Paris. Hastings looks sick. We stopped the bomb, but this, it's monstrous. Poirot nods, his mind racing. He suspects number 1 uses Wu as a cover, operating from the temple. Chen arrives, reporting his men found gas canisters in a warehouse near the courtyard, marked with the number 4. Enough to kill thousands, Chen says. Poirot shares the seal and ledger. We must raid the temple, he says, but number 1 is clever. Chen agrees to gather men, but warns he'll have traps. That night, Poirot and Hastings join Chun's raid, the temple's lanterns casting eerie shadows. The courtyard is quiet, too quiet, and Poirot's senses scream danger. They enter the hidden room, finding it empty except for a single note, marked with a 4. You're too late, Poirot. A faint hiss fills the air gas. Out, Poirot shouts, pulling Hastings and Chen back as a canister releases a faint almond scent. They escape, coughing, as Chan's men seal the area. Formula X, gas, Poirot murmurs, his heart pounding. The trap confirms number 1's ruthlessness, but the dropped seal is a slip. He's here, Poirot says, and he's watching. Poirot plans to set a trap, using the ledger to lure Wu. He'll lead us to number 1, he tells Hastings. The Shanghai night pulses with danger, but Poirot's little grey cells are sharper than ever. The Big Four's web is tightening, and the next move could unmask their leader or end in disaster. We're deep in Shanghai's shadows, with Poirot dodging a deadly gas trap and closing in on number 1. What's Wu hiding? Will Poirot catch Li Chang Yen? Stick with us for Chapter 8, where Poirot sets a daring trap that could bring down the Big Four. If you're hooked on this global thriller, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below who's number 1 to you. Let's keep chasing with Poirot. The sultry Shanghai night buzzes with danger, its narrow alleys glowing under flickering lanterns as Hercule Poirot, his mustache impeccably twirled, stands in a shadowed tea house, the red seal from the temple raid clutched in his gloved hand. It's July 1927, And the hunt for the Big Four, a global syndicate of crime masters, has reached a boiling point after Poirot's narrow escape from a deadly gas trap in Shanghai's old city. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, holds the ledger stolen from Mr. Wu's shop, his face pale with worry. "Poirot, that gas nearly killed us," he says, his voice shaky. "Number one's always one step ahead." Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. "Mon ami, the Big Four think they control the board, but Hercule Poirot sets a cleverer trap. Tonight, we snare Mr. Wu and draw out number one. The clues, the curare-tipped dart, the note with the number 4, John Ingles' journal, the threatening letter, the Chinese watermark, the silk handkerchief, the ledger, the jade pendant, the Formula X, vial, the bomb blueprint, the key, the letter to Chang Yen, the Paris address, the notebook naming Claude Darrell, the Shanghai map, and now the red seal point to a conspiracy led by the elusive Chang Yen. The city hums with menace, and Poirot is ready to spring his trap. Poirot begins by examining the red seal, its intricate number for matching the jade pendant's craftsmanship. "This is number one's mark," he murmurs, "and Mr. Wu is his pawn." The ledger's entries, listing gas canisters marked with a 4, confirm Wu's role in smuggling Formula X for a poison gas attack. Hastings looks grim. Poisoning a city. They're monsters, Poirot. Poirot nods, his mind racing. The Big Four aim to sow chaos, mon ami, but their arrogance betrays them. The journal describes number one as a mastermind manipulating global politics, with Madame Olivier and Claude Darrell now in custody as his tools. The threatening note from the temple, warning "You're too late, Poirot," suggests number. One knows he's close. He fears us, Poirot says, and fear makes mistakes. Poirot meets Inspector Chen in the tea house, its air thick with jasmine and tension. "Your raid stirred the triads," Chen says, his eyes sharp. Wu's shop is under watch, but Chang Yen is a shadow. Poirot shows the seal and ledger. "Wu is the key to number one," he says. "We must lure him out." Chen frowns. Wary, Wu's connected dangerous men guard him. Poirot proposes a plan. Leak a false report that the police have a witness linking Wu to the gas canisters, forcing him to meet number one. A trap, Poirot says, to catch a bigger fish. Chen agrees, sending men to spread the rumor through Shanghai's underworld, but warns, if this fails, you're a dead man, Poirot. Poirot and Hastings return to Wu's shop, posing as buyers to observe. The shop is bustling, its shelves lined with jade and silk, but Wu's eyes are nervous, his hands fidgeting. Poirot's questions are subtle but piercing. "Monsieur Wu, you trade in rare goods, Nan, like those marked with a 4. Wu's smile falters, his voice tight. "Know nothing of that," but his glance at a hidden door betrays him. Poirot distracts him with talk of jade, while Hastings slips a note into the shopper, fake police report claiming a witness saw Wu with the canisters. "This will push him," Poirot whispers as they leave, the trap set. That night, Chun's men report Wu leaving his shop in a hurry, heading to the old city's temple courtyard. Poirot and Hastings follow, the alleys dark and crowded, the air heavy with incense. The temple looms, its red lanterns swaying like eyes. Poirot's cane taps softly, his senses alert. "Wu seeks number one," he murmurs, spotting Wu's silk-robed figure slipping into the hidden room from the raid. They creep closer, hiding behind a statue, and overhear Wu arguing with a man whose voice is low, commanding, and accented. Li Chang Yen, Poirot whispers, his heart racing. The man, his face hidden by a lacquered mask, scolds, "Wu, you were careless. The detective is too close." Wu stammers, "The witness is a lie, I swear." Poirot signals Chin's men, waiting in the shadows, to move in. As the police raid the room, chaos erupts. Wu bolts, but Chun's men grab him, while the masked man vanishes through a secret passage. Poirot finds a dropped Itama gold ring, engraved with a 4 and the Chinese character for power. "Number ones," he murmurs, pocketing it. Wu, sweating and panicked, denies knowing Li Chang Yen, but his fear betrays him. Poirot presses, "You smuggled the gas for him, Nan." Wu cracks, admitting he handled shipments, but never met number one face to face. He sends orders through couriers, Wu says, like the woman with the veil. Poirot's eyes gleam at Olivier's shadow lingers, even in Shanghai. Back at the tea house, Poirot examines the ring, its design matching the seal and pendant. "Number one is close," he tells Hastings, "but he slips through our fingers." Chen reports the temple room held more Formula X canisters, rigged to release gas. "You stopped another attack," Chen says, "but Li Chang Yen's gone." Poirot studies the ledger again, finding a new entry. A shipment to London, marked for number 2. The financier, Poirot, murmurs. The Big Four regroup. Hastings looks alarmed. "Back to London, after all this?" Poirot nods, his mind racing. "The gas was a test, mon ami. Their real plan is bigger." Poirot wires Jap, warning of the London shipment. "Number 2 funds their chaos," he says. "We must find him." The journal mentions number 2 as a wealthy figure manipulating banks, and Poirot suspects he's in London, hiding behind a respectable facade. A new letter arrives at the tea house, marked with a 4. "You chase shadows, Poirot. Number 1 is untouchable." Hastings trembles, but Poirot burns it, his smile steely. "They taunt us, mon ami, but taunts reveal fear." He plans to return to London, using Wu's confession to track number 2. The ring's weight in his pocket feels like a promise and a threat, as dawn breaks over Shanghai. Poirot and Hastings board a ship to London, the city's lanterns fading behind them. "Number 1 thinks he's safe," Poirot says, "but the little grey cells never rest." The Big Four's web spans countenance, but Poirot's trap has shaken them. The next move could unmask number 2 or lead to a deadly reckoning. We're reeling from Shanghai's deadly snare, with Poirot closing in on number 1 but facing a new trail to London. Who is number 2? What's the Big Four's next move? Stick with us for Chapter 9, where Poirot hunts the financier in a game of cat and mouse that could unravel the syndicate. If you're hooked on this global thriller, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below what's number 1 planning next. Let's keep chasing with Poirot. The London fog rolls thick and heavy, cloaking the city in a ghostly veil as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, steps off a ship from Shanghai into the damp chill of July 1927. The narrow escape from a deadly gas trap in Old City has only sharpened his resolve to dismantle the Big Four, the global syndicate behind John Ingles' murder and a string of chaotic plots. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, clutches the gold ring they found in the temple. It's engraved number 4, glinting under the dockside lamps. "Poirot, we're back where we started, but number 1's still out there," Hastings says, his voice tight with worry. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. Mon ami, the Big Four think London shields them, but Hercule Poirot plays their game better. Today, we hunt number 2, the financier, and tighten the noose. The clue's the curare-tipped dart, the note with the number 4, Ingles' journal, the threatening letter, the Chinese watermark, the silk handkerchief, the ledger, the jade pendant, the Formula X vial, the bomb blueprint, the key, the letter. To Chang Yen, the Paris address, the notebook naming Claude Darrell, the Shanghai map, the red seal, and now the gold ring point to a conspiracy funded by number 2's wealth. The fog hums with menace, and Poirot is ready to outwit the money behind the Big Four. Poirot begins by examining the gold ring. Its intricate design matching the red seal and jade pendant, all marked with the number 4, number 1's signature. He murmurs, but number 2 funds his chaos. The ledger from Mr. Wu's shop in Shanghai listed a shipment of Formula X gas canisters to London, marked for number 2. A banker, perhaps, Poirot says, recalling the journal's description of number 2 as a financier fueling revolutions and heists. Hastings looks grim, funding bombs and gas. He's as bad as number 1. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Money is their lifeblood, mon ami, and we shall cut it off. The threatening note from Shanghai, warning number 1 is untouchable, suggests the Big Four are shaken by Poirot's pursuit. They fear us, he says, and fear breeds errors. Poirot contacts Inspector Japp at Scotland Yard, meeting him in a smoky pub near the docks. Blimey, Poirot, you've been to Shanghai and back. Japp says, his bowler hat tipped back. What's this about, number 2? Poirot shares the ledger's London shipment and the journal's clues, pointing to a wealthy figure manipulating banks. He hides behind respectability, Poirot says, but the gold ring leads us. Japp frowns, sipping his ale. We've had bank frauds lately, big ones, tied to that number 4. I'll check records, but London's full of rich crooks. Poirot shows the ring's engraving, its Chinese character for power linking it to Chang Yen. Number 2 is his ally here, Poirot says. Japp agrees to investigate bankers with ties to Shanghai, but warns, these types are slippery, Poirot. Watch your back. Poirot and Hastings head to the City of London, the financial heart where banks tower like fortresses. The ledger mentions a firm, Harrow and Sons, linked to the Formula X shipment. Affront, Poirot murmurs, his cane tapping as they approach the grand office. Inside, they meet Mr. Reginald Harrow, a polished man with a sharp suit and sharper eyes. Monsieur Harrow, you handle shipments from Shanghai? Nan Poirot asks, his tone gentle but probing. Harrow's smile is tight. We trade globally, Mr. Poirot. Nothing unusual. But his hands fidget, and Poirot notices a locked briefcase, its clasp engraved with a faint 4. While Hastings distracts Harrow with talk of investments, Poirot slips a receipt from the desk. A transfer to a Shanghai account under LCY. Chang Yen, Poirot whispers, pocketing it. Back at the flat, Poirot examines the receipt, its numbers tying Harrow to number 1's funds. Number 2, perhaps, he tells Hastings. Harrow moves money for the Big Four. The journal mentions number 2's role in funding coups, and Poirot suspects Harrow's bank is a hub. Hastings looks alarmed. A banker as a criminal mastermind. That's new, Poirot. Poirot's eyes gleam. Money buys power, mon ami, and power buys chaos. He cross-references the receipt with Japp's bank fraud reports, finding Harrow's firm linked to mysterious transfers in Russia and France. all marked with a 4. He's number 2's front, Poirot says, but we need proof. Poirot sets a trap, leaking a false story to a financial paper that Scotland Yard has evidence tying Harrow to illegal Shanghai funds. This will flush him out, Poirot tells Hastings. That evening, they stake out Harrow's office, the fog thick and the streets quiet. Harrow emerges, nervous, clutching his briefcase, and heads to a private club in Mayfair. Poirot and Hastings follow, slipping inside as guests. The club is opulent, its air thick with cigar smoke and whispers. Harrow meets a man in a private room door, with a cold smile and a gold watch engraved with a 4. Number 2, Poirot murmurs, his heart racing. They overhear Harrow whisper, Chang Yen demands the funds. Now the gas plan failed. The man snaps, Poirot's too close. Move the money tonight. Poirot signals Jap, waiting outside with men. As Harrow and the man exit, Jap's team moves in. But the man number 2 slips through a hidden door, leaving Harrow behind. Jap cuffs Harrow, who panics, shouting, I only handled the accounts. Poirot finds a dropped item of gold. Cufflink, matching the ring's design, marked with a 4. Number 2's, he murmurs, pocketing it. Harrow confesses under pressure, admitting he funneled money for a man named Abe Ryland, a reclusive tycoon. Number 2, Poirot says, his eyes blazing. The receipt and cufflink tie Ryland to Chang Yen, but he's vanished into the fog back at Scotland Yard. Jap confirms Ryland's reputation as a ruthless financier with ties to Shanghai. He's untouchable, Poirot, Jap says. No. Proof, but Poirot's mind races, the cufflink and receipt enough to track Ryland. He's in London, Poirot says, hiding behind wealth. A new letter arrives at the flat, marked with a 4. You're chasing ghosts, Poirot. Hastings trembles, but Poirot burns it, his smile steely. They taunt us, mon ami, but taunts reveal weakness. He plans to find Ryland, using Harrow's confession to trace his accounts. The fog outside thickens, but Poirot's resolve is unshaken. Poirot and Hastings prepare to hunt Ryland, the financier behind the Big Four's chaos. Number 2 thinks he's safe, Poirot says, but the little grey cells never rest. The Big Four's web is unraveling, but the final showdown looms closer. We're deep in London's financial shadows, with Poirot snaring number 2's pawn and closing in on Abe Ryland. Will he catch the financier? Is number 1 next? Stick with us for Chapter 10, where Poirot faces a final show. The London fog swirls like a shroud, its damp chill seeping into the city's bones as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, stands in his cozy flat, the gold cufflink of Abe Ryland gleaming on his desk. It's July 1927, and the hunt for the Big Four, a global syndicate orchestrating chaos, has reached its climax after Poirot's daring trap in London snared Reginald Harrow, number 2's pawn. Captain Hastings, his loyal friend, grips the receipt tying Harrow to Chang Yen, his face pale with anticipation. Poirot, we've got Ryland cornered, but number 1's still out there, Hastings says, his voice trembling. Poirot's grey eyes blaze, his tone calm but sharp as a blade. Mon ami, the Big Four think they are untouchable, but Hercule Poirot's little grey cells have woven a net. Today, we face the final showdown to dismantle their empire. The clues, the curare-tipped dart, the note with the number 4, John Ingles' journal, the threatening letter, the Chinese watermark, the silk handkerchief, the ledger, the jade pendant, the Formula X vial, the bomb blueprint, the key, the letter to Chang Yen, the Paris address, the notebook naming Claude Darrell, the Shanghai map, the red seal, the gold ring, the gold cufflink, and the receipt point to a conspiracy that spans continents. The fog outside pulses with danger, and Poirot is ready to end the Big Four's reign. Poirot begins by examining the cufflink. It's engraved number 4, matching the gold ring and red seal, all tied to Chang Yen. Number 2, Abe, Ryland, funds. They're chaos, he murmurs, but number 1 is the heart. The receipt from Harrow's desk confirms Ryland's transfers to a Shanghai account under LCY, linking him to number 1. Hastings looks grim. Ryland's a tycoon. Do we catch him? Poirot's smile is steely. With cunning, mon ami, he hides behind wealth, but wealth leaves traces. The journal describes number 2 as a financier fueling revolutions, and Harrow's confession revealed Ryland as the mastermind behind the money. The latest threatening letter, warning you're chasing ghosts, Poirot, suggests the big for are rattled. They fear the little grey cells, Poirot says, and fear makes them sloppy. Poirot meets Inspector Japp at Scotland Yard, the air thick with tension. Ryland's a big fish, Poirot, Japp says, his bowler hat tipped back. His bank's clean on paper, but those transfers are dodgy. Poirot shares the cufflink and receipt, tying Ryland to the Formula X shipments. He funds number 1's weapons, Poirot says, and he's in London. Japp frowns, flipping through fraught reports. Ryland's got a mansion in Kensington and, with private guards, Poirot's eyes gleam. No one is untouchable, Inspector. We set a trap. He proposes leaking a story to the press that Harrow has named Ryland as number 2, forcing him to act. Japp agrees, sending men to watch Ryland's mansion, but warns, he's slippery, Poirot. Don't get caught. Poirot and Hastings head to Kensington, the fog cloaking Ryland's grand mansion like a fortress. The ledger and receipt point to a secret vault, and Poirot suspects Ryland keeps records of the Big Four's funds. They pose as investors, gaining entry to a lavish party at the mansion. Inside, the air is thick with cigar smoke and wealth, guests mingling under chandeliers. Ryland, a tall man with a cold smile and sharp eyes, greets them warily. Mr. Poirot, a detective at my party, he says, his voice smooth but edged. Poirot's questions are gentle but piercing. Monsieur Ryland, you know, of Shanghai Nan, and funds marked with a 4. Ryland's smile falters, his hand brushing a gold watch engraved with a 4. Poirot notices a locked door behind a curtain, likely to the vault. While Hastings distracts Ryland with talk of stocks, Poirot slips to the door, using a hairpin to pick the locker trick he rarely admits to knowing. Inside, he finds a safe, its dial gleaming. The receipt's numbers hint at the combination, and Poirot opens it, revealing ledgers detailing millions funneled to Chang Yen for weapons, coups, and gas attacks. Mon Dieu, he murmurs, pocketing a key ledger. A guard spots him, shouting, and Poirot ducks into the shadows as Ryland storms in. Poirot. Ryland snarls, pulling a gun. Hastings tackles him, the gun skidding, and Japp's men burst in, cuffing Ryland. The ledger is damning, but a new clue emerges: a telegram in the safe, addressed to Ryland. Return to Shanghai, number 1 commands. Back at Scotland Yard. Ryland remains defiant, his cold smile unbroken. You've got nothing, Poirot, he sneers. Chang Yen is beyond you. But the ledger and telegram tie him to number 1's orders. And Jap confirms the funds fueled the Paris bomb and Shanghai gas plots. You've got number 2, Poirot, Jap says. But number 1's the real prize. Poirot nods, his mind racing. The telegram's mention of Shanghai suggests number 1 is planning a final move. He regroups. Poirot says, but we will follow. Hastings looks pale. Back to Shanghai. After everything, Poirot's eyes blaze. The big four end where they began, mon ami. Poirot and Hastings board a ship to Shanghai, the key ledger heavy in Poirot's pocket. The journal's final entry mentions number 1's baser hidden estate in Shanghai's French concession. Chang Yen thinks he's safe, Poirot says, but no one hides from the little grey cells. In Shanghai, they meet Inspector Chen, who's tracked the telegram to a mansion owned by a recluse. Mr. Li, that's him, Chen says. Chang Yen. The estate is fortified, its gates marked with a subtle 4. Poirot plans a final trap. Using the ledger to lure number 1, he leaks a story to Shanghai's underworld that Ryland's ledgers expose Chang Yen, forcing a meeting at midnight. Poirot and Hastings infiltrate the estate with Chen's men, the air thick with jasmine and danger. In a grand hall, they confront a man in a lacquered mask. Chang Yen. Number 1, you're persistent, Poirot, he says, his voice cold, but the big 4 are eternal. Poirot holds up the ledger. Your empire falls, monsieur. Your agents, Madame, Olivier, Darrell, Ryland are finished. Chen's men move in, but Chang Yen triggers a trap. Smoke fills the room and he vanishes. Poirot finds a final clue, a note in Chang Yen's hand.